Welcome back, everybody. This is Paul again. This is the third of my series I've been making about esoteric psychology, which I call the science of the soul. It's a very old subject. Basically, in the first couple episodes, we were talking about who is perceiving. This is a really age-old question. Who is perceiving? What is perceiving out of our eyes? And if we answer that question, really helps. And the second part of it is, what are we perceiving? What is it out there that we're perceiving? Our modern science tells us that, frankly, it's actually unbelievable. I'm like 75% water. Standing here, I'm water. I'm electricity. What am I? Kind of interesting question, isn't it? So, in addition to that, well, how do we perceive and what are we perceiving? Because what are we perceiving is just elements, just energy, just light, just sound. It's just, there's a whole lot of really strange stuff if you get down to the nitty-gritty about it, because the science, the more we learn, the more confusing it gets. Quantum mechanics, really, really strange stuff is happening. This is how we live. This is exactly the universe that we're in. So what is it that we're perceiving? Is this some big great hologram? And we're actually moving in it? We're just like, in the sense that we're totally immersed. I imagine being in the ocean. Every time you move, you're pushing something, you're floating. So what is it that we're perceiving? This physical universe, or this mental things that go through our mind? And it leads to really the basic human dilemma: incomplete perception. If we don't have very good perception, we're going to be blind, confusion, pain, because the reality is not what we think. The facts of existence, all the amazing facts of existence, are not what we imagine. Just because we have a belief system, or we have poor perception, limited perception, we assume some things that aren't true. So there's a basic conflict that exists between the soul inside us, which I call the superconscious soul awareness. That part of our awareness, of our being, is awake 24/7. We have dreams. We have visions. When we sleep, we resolve things. There's something inside us that is aware 24/7, but we are not aware of it in our mind, in our brain. So what happens a lot of times is people get very confused and full of pain, because it's literally like they bump into things. Our superconscious soul awareness is much, much smarter than our mind. It sees the big picture. It's anchored in our heart, in a physical sense, through the streams of energy that the heart uses. It can see and assess trends without you realizing it. It's the keeper of memories. It drives us to improvement and growth. It's like our GPS, the internal self-guiding GPS that's, excuse me, you know, sometimes the soul comes in and says in a big dream or something, "Hello, I'd like to tell you something. You're going in a bad direction." Because we often in our daily lives get fixated and identified with this mind, with this mental energy, which the ancient people called desire mind, manas, stuff, chatter. Mental stuff is called chitta, and we get that word chatter from that. That chatter in our brain obstructs our realization. The chatter in the mind, the flicker of the mind, it's like if you try to go look for something outdoors with a candle, it's difficult. If you have a laser beam on the other hand, if you have a huge beam, it's different. So our mind, and all the good aspects of our mind and our brain, can be focused like a lens from wide to narrow. Not just narrow, not just wide, but it can be used to see whatever we need to see, perceive whatever we need to see, using the physical instrument and that interconnection to the superconscious soul. Every day in our life we experience things that we don't record very well visually or in our memory. But in our being, our body is having to adjust to different humidities and different temperatures and things like that. We hear sounds, our eyes will blink if something comes near it. All these things happen because something is more conscious than we are. People sometimes call it the unconscious. Well, the unconscious. Well, if the unconscious knows more than what we are conscious, then actually that's called the superconscious, and what we are, if we're anchored in our brain and our mind and only focused on this, using our mental chitter and chatter, if that's all we are, then we are the unconscious things. But when we don't identify with that, it's not actually a matter of, well, I need to readjust my personality and my mind so that I can become like the superconscious soul. No, actually you just kind of let go of the instrument, the tool. You don't have to become anything. There's already this thing, this superconscious soul in us. It's keeping track of us. It's much smarter. So what we have here again, we have the basics of so many conflicts because we have incomplete perception. We have a hope for something that will happen in our life because we want to satisfy our body, we want to do something, but we don't know how to go about getting these things that we so desire, and we go through so many obstacles when, if we allow some of that steady soul awareness and clarity come to us, which is actually who we really are, it's non-judgmental, it's observant, and the body is a shell or vehicle for this soul. It's when we identify with that personality in the sense of the limitations. We all have to have a sense of ourself and so on. That's not what I'm talking about when I say we have to let go of our mind and all that. I'm saying to understand the balance of what that really is, to have something integrated, a tool, a mind personality that's organized, that can channel this greater energy and this greater awareness. And this is what the soul drives us to do, to constantly become more conscious. So, in many situations in life, people don't understand. Like, first of all, we're trying to reach our goals of something. We have a certain desire, let's say, to have something, or have something happen. It doesn't happen. We have confusion and grief. Maybe we didn't know how to get it. Maybe we should have just waited a little while. Maybe what we think we want is actually not good, and so their superconscious soul awareness is saying, I'm not letting it happen, so to speak. In other words, the deeper part of you, your own best judgment, is actually winning sometimes to help make sure that you keep growing. So it's really kind of a complicated subject in many ways, the whole, what is it that we're perceiving? And why? What bearing does it have on, are we trying to use what we perceive to satisfy something very limited and temporary, or are we trying to utilize what we perceive, increase what we know, and use it to gain a better connection between that superconscious soul awareness that is actually deep within us? It's our brain and other limitations that cause some obstacles. So I'm going to pause here and go on to the next section.